Mondays. Monday. I'm back again with another installment of Money Mondays. Just to remind, like all of my vlogs, I do everything in the moment without research, without the Googles next to me. So I'm basically imparting knowledge from my brain and nothing else. That said, as any other human being, I'm obviously subject to making errors and any other things that humans can do. So if I do, you all have the Googles right next to you, so you can definitely feel free to fact check me as you see fit. A number of my viewers have asked me questions about my process when it comes to identifying animals, and I've explained in detail what that is, which is essentially I just flow through information that I learn from professionals around me, be they guides, experts, PhDs. Sometimes, if need be, for example, identifying animals, I'll conduct my own research, which is comparing my footage to established reputable resources. Still then, I can make mistakes because I'm just really a retired engineer. Retired in the sense that all I ever did was one research project. I used the analytical skills that I learned as an engineer throughout my entire adventure life, but that being said, I'm only but one person. Some people like Travis Pastrana, extreme sports champion, have teams of people who specialize in physics, helping him calculate the likelihood of him completing any one of his stunts. And yes, that involves expertise in calculating the physics, the logistics. I have none of that. I have just me. So, despite the fact that I trust myself more than, let's say, the average person without any experience, I still have room to grow and improve in all of these facets of my life. Today's collection of coins has again been a gift from a friend, so thanks to that friend for these gifts of coins and currency. The collection is 10 German Reich coins from the three Reichs. Whenever we discuss the German Empire, especially the one in the 20th century, the World Wars, that can be a particularly triggering topic for some people. In my adventure career, I've approached these types of concepts and events with a different perspective. I observe patterns using a loose framework of evolutionary biology. The problem is, as many people know, my background is in electrical engineering, So my biology training is admittedly little compared to someone who has studied biology proper in their undergrad, graduate, PhD programs. So, admittedly, I'm operating in something that I'm an amateur at, something that's new to me. But I would still maintain that the scientific method is an important one, and one that can help you cross train in all of the different analytical specialties. In general, to be honest, I think you can actually approach all of life using analytics to help you with your decision making. That is something I think that's going to be more and more important as we enter this new world based on whatever goes postmodernism. I'll admit that I'm definitely a proponent of that, but I also have to draw the distinction between what ought and what is. I think science describes what is, and then humans are left to their own devices to decide what ought to be. What ought to be is a very difficult question to answer. It depends on many factors, and some of these factors maybe we can explore as I open this set of Reich coins. Again, despite this being the first time opening this pouch, I obviously have been able to at least look at the coins through the transparent pouch. Okay, there we go. In my previous installment, Around the World in 30 Coins, I mentioned that I knew pfennigs were from Germany, and we will have a number of those pfennigs today. We'll start with this $50 pfennig. From 1922. In the description, I've actually linked to one of Bret Weinstein's lectures for the first time. The reason is because he obviously explains the concept that I'm going to be weaving in as we look at the Deutsche Reich coins. Anyone interested in further exploring Bret's concepts can watch that YouTube lecture, which has been very much of a framework that I've used to analyze my experiences as an adventure traveler. Having been to 101 UN countries, I've noticed something interesting and curious, or maybe less so if you are willing to discuss openly, which is how come every country that I land in, I can reasonably joke about which genocide or dictator or absolute horrible human atrocity am I going to be visiting today. It's because every country that I've landed in, there has been such a place to visit. Here we have 10 pfennigs from 1890. These coins are obviously much older than any of the other currency that I've opened thus far, but they are in awesome condition given the age. The fact that these things repeat in space and time means something more important than just writing off certain people or events in history as just that's an anomaly. The distinction is actually very important between a true anomaly and actual human nature, because if you treat human nature as an anomaly, you're doomed to repeat it again and again and again and again and again and again ad nauseum. Now, Bret, in his lecture that I've linked in the description, has beautifully simplified the pattern that I have observed in my adventure travels. The pattern is there's obviously something biological to the concept of genocide, violence, and other things that we, as thinking, conscious human beings, would wish not to be the case. Again, I'm describing what is, literally what scientifically is, versus what ought to be. The problem is people avoid trying to discuss this distinction because they're afraid that if they discuss what is, that is them endorsing what ought to be. But I think Bret and I am very clear that there are two different things here. Describing a phenomenon does not mean you endorse the phenomenon. And people who understand this distinction should be steadfast and brave in drawing attention to this, because the more people are afraid to voice even something as basic as what is not what ought, it's just yeah. I've mentioned before that my antinatalism stems from the fact that this is not the kind of world that I would wish anyone to live in, including myself, which is why I would spare anybody of the suffering that happens in this world. So that's my opinion on the state of affairs. If anyone thinks mistakenly that I would want this type of world to be for anyone that I know, even my worst enemy, no. That's why I'm an antinatalist. Here's another pfennig from 1917. But then again, the question becomes, what is the actual solution? And I have none of those. I have none of those. All I do is observe patterns, and people smarter than me, like Bret Weinstein, will be the ones to suggest solutions. He suggests a number of solutions in his presentation that I've linked. One of them is one that I've used greatly to my advantage, which is create in other ways than just creating mouths. That's the one I champion across space and time. I've often said, and I am doing this based more on intuition, but I'll try to research more. People create mouths because they don't know how to create anything else. They don't know how to be creative in other ways, in terms of ideas, in terms of word, speech, dance, art, all of these things. And they just do literally the most primitive, basic, fundamental thing that they're in some ways biologically wired to do. So then I would challenge people to look outside of that. And that's the tough one. How do you challenge people who have been biologically wired to not be biologically wired? I have no clue. I have no clue. All I know is that there is such a thing. But I've also mentioned that part of that is I might have the benefit of being maladaptive. I'm going to fully call it a benefit now, because that's helped me lean into things that are, what I think, much more important than just fucking. Yes, I'm going in and out with the coins here. Deutsch Reich, 2 Pfennigs. That's the beauty of these vlogs. I just go stream of consciousness style, but I'm oddly very lucid and logical in all of them. That's a skill, that's an art. So I'm leaning into that. I've never placed my self-worth into other people's hands. The way people do that is they get married, they have kids, and they basically have their entire self-worth be dictated by how many kids they bear, how much money they make, things outside of themselves. Okay. So we have already gone through 1, 2, 3, 4 coins. Now, because the pouch was transparent, I know one of the coins is a Nazi Germany Reich coin, but only one. My guess would be those are worth the most, but I could be wrong. The package is labeled Deutsch Reich coins from 1871 to 1945, so that's the German Empire, the Weimar Empire, and Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany known as the Third Reich. That's all I know. But I was in Nuremberg, which is one of the torture sites, and when I am in and exploring that type of what you would call attraction, I know I was born maladaptive. That I know, because I can hardly understand how people could visit a site like that or observe the immense levels of suffering that still happen in this world and just be okay with bringing more people into this world. To me, that's just beyond my understanding, which is why I often talk about antinatalism, because it's easy for me, it's easy to understand, and I think it's the only thing that makes sense in this world. 5 Pfennigs, 1906. So then my contribution, in addition to what Bret says, is I'm more direct than him. He's still an educated, well-spoken luminary, but I'm just me, and I can say what I want to say. And what I want to say would be, get over the fucking. I think one of the biggest hoodwinks that people play on each other is they need to hype that activity up as something that's so very important. I, as someone who's maladaptive, will say I have no idea why it's so important, and I'll actually advance my stock theory. This is something I've told people over and over again, but very few people actually understand what I mean. We might be coming upon the Nazi coin. Well, we have to be coming upon it unless we passed it already. 5 pfennigs from 1920. This has been interesting, trying to weave my controversial ideas into a vlog about coins. Have I gone twice on this? We'll do 3 if I need to. Do I have 7 minutes to wrap it up? Yes. So here's my stock theory. Okay. I'd ask people, what exactly are you trying to achieve with sex? As in sex between 2 humans, as opposed to sex with yourself. If it's just an orgasm, there are better ways to do it. There are winning stocks without the risk. So when people choose sex, I always think that they're choosing basically the more expensive stock with the least upside. Whereas sex with yourself is the cheapest stock with the best upside. And if you think about it, it's true. If you have to involve another human into your sexual activities, you do have to think about STDs and pregnancy. If you don't involve someone else and you just do it by yourself, you have to think about none of that. So I've often thought of people around me as being just terrible, irrational stock pickers. Oh, give me the one that's more expensive and has the least upside. Wait, there's one right here that's cheaper and has the best upside. Well, I don't want that one. I want the more expensive one with the least upside. Okay. Alright. So then, that's if we only assess sex based on orgasm. Okay, let's add something. Let's say that another person can give you something you can't get by yourself. So what exactly is that? Love, self-esteem. Why can't you generate that for yourself? And that's something that I'll just leave as an open-ended question. Why can't you generate that for yourself? That's it. Because? Okay. Because you can't? Okay. Have you tried? Have you tried? Because I've noticed that in all of the effort you spend trying to justify your existence through someone else's eyes, the makeup, the nails, the this, the that, dude, you could have been doing a lot of other things. Now, are these things better? I don't know, but you might not know unless you try. So to people who often tell me about how wondrous sex is, I often ask them, have you done anything else to compare it to yet? Have you jumped out of a plane? Have you interacted with the ocean, scuba dived, done anything else that you could have perhaps compared it to, or did you just get sucked into the Ponzi scheme? That's going to be a question I ask you. That'd be really funny how society would quickly fall apart if they might reclassify something like sex, family, all this stuff as a procreational Ponzi scheme. Anyways, okay. Did we really pass on the Third Reich coin, the Nazi Germany coin? We might have already. The most expensive stock with the least upside. Whoa! I don't get it. I really don't. Okay, so I will save the best for last. I wonder why sometimes these coins flip oddly. Okay, best for last. This is what I think some people have been waiting for, or nobody's been waiting for, who knows. This is one Pfennig from Nazi Germany. The swastika is a little faded, but it's there. It's right there. This one looks like it's been through a war. There we go. So that's it. The collection of 10 Deutsche Reich coins, where only one was from Nazi Germany, but still an interesting stream of consciousness lecture I had. Like I said, that's the challenge for you. What if sex is a procreational Ponzi scheme? What would you think about life then?